Hello, I'm Joel Kramer, and I'm an archaeology student here in Israel.
How are you so crazy about me? You gave your life to set me free. By your grace that I had never known, I am saved, my life is yours alone. La-da-da-da-da-da-da, 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 la-da-da-da-da-da-da. I was just thinking to myself, am I saved? Where would I go if I were to die today? Could you help me know the truth
That you see here and the next site that we go to? Just remember this slant and remember what it looks like. It'll be a parallel in the next site we go to. The other thing it should remind you of is the Western Wall. So we're now standing in the middle of this site, and this was excavated back in the 1920s. Unfortunately, the excavation report is all in German, and I don't read German. But you got several different periods listed here. So this period with the enclosure wall that goes around is from the time period of Herod the Great. See it? And also this strip in here. Then you have this, which is very interesting. You see these structures right here? These structures are from the Iron Age. They're on the outside of the enclosure wall, on the other side of there. Do you see what I'm talking about? And they are one of the few things. There's a wall right here also from the Iron Age, from the 9th century BC. This is a gate. Do you see what I'm talking about? When Herod the Great rebuilt this site in the 1st century BC, it completely destroyed whatever enclosure was there from the Iron Age. Okay, but do you see that the site goes back even further? And then we have an altar and pottery from the Middle Bronze period. Come in close so you can see the thing. Okay, so let's talk about one thing on top of another. We go all the way from the time of Abraham with Middle Bronze pottery at this site, all the way to the Iron Age where there's some kind of enclosure here with the entrance that then is destroyed in the 1st century BC when Herod the Great builds here. Now listen to this. Herod the Great, his subjects, you know who I'm talking about, his subjects, in order to please them, he built up 3 sites. 3 sites only. This is one of them. That's significant. Okay, now this is Constantinian. This is a church of Constantine. Constantine only built 4 churches in this country. It is from the time of Abraham, Iron Age, the Israelites built here. Herod the Great, one of only 3 sites that he built up to please his subjects. One of only 4 churches that Constantine built was on this site. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre. Okay. Who appeared here to Abraham? The Lord. That's pretty significant. This is where the Lord appeared to Abraham. Near the great trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Remember, we were at a site like this the other day between Bethel and Ai, where you have one thing built on top of another. And here we are again at another site associated with Abraham. So what specifically happened here? This is what the Lord said to him. Then the Lord said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already old and well advanced in years, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, after I am worn out and my master is old, will I now have this pleasure? Then the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, will I really have a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at this appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, I did not laugh. But he said, yes, you did laugh. This is it. This is the spot where Abraham pitched his tent and where the Lord appeared to Abraham and promised him a son an heir in his old age, not just through anybody, but specifically through Sarah in her old age. Listen to this description. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre. Okay, in the excavations here, they found evidence. You can't see trees here today, but they found evidence of trees being here in ancient time. I want to point out two of them. One is that a tree came up through that bedrock over there. You see where it was?
Oh, yeah.
Another one is this tree ring right here. This. So this tree ring right here. Now this makes sense that trees would be here because of the water source of the site, which is up here.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Okay, so this is the water source for the site. Of course, this is in the late Roman style, but this is actually still used today. Do you see the hoses coming out of this with the pump? So this was the water source all the way back to the time of Abraham and before that. So why would this be a good site for Abraham to camp? Because it had a water source, and he has lots of animals that he's got to keep watered, and you got trees here for shade. We have Eusebius that I was telling you about. That was here in 313 AD. This is before Constantine wins control of the East. And he's here and he's describing an altar where these sacrifices are being made in the late Roman period. The archaeologists, of course, being aware of this historical source when they uncovered this canal from here, the evidence shows that the altar was in this area where this boy is standing up here, and that this is interpreted as a drain to bring the blood out of the enclosure area. And so Eusebius talks about that. We have other historical sites. Constantine's mother-in-law also visits the site and writes about it, specifically about the paganism that is going on here. Why? Because once a site becomes a sacred site, then it does through the different centuries. At this point, it's being desecrated by the late Roman period. We're standing on the foundations, and you can see the apse, where the apse is right here. Okay, so as far as the apse, you just draw a bullseye, and this is where the church is commemorating where Abraham's tent would have been. It was for sure in this vicinity somewhere, and so you can see you've got construction from all these different periods. Now, this is impressive because the other three churches, there's only 4 Constantinian churches in the whole country. One of them you've been to is the Church of Nativity, where Jesus was born in Bethlehem. The other one you were just at yesterday, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where he was crucified, buried, and rose from the dead. Another one, the Eleona Church, which is up on the Mount of Olives and is commemorative of his ascension and teaching his disciples there. And then the other one here at Mamre. Of all those churches, the one that you can see the Constantinian remains of the church the best is right here at Mamre. You're looking at its foundation.
What's that inscription on there?
Yes, that's right. There is an inscription here.
That's up on the top.
Yes. Yeah, there's actually inscriptions all over this site from all different periods. And so the historical evidence here goes way back. Just look around you. One thing built on top of another. How in all of this area do we know where this biblical event took place? Because this is sacred space. When Hebron itself expanded into this area, it didn't go over the top of this site, it went around this site. Why? Because the locals still hold this as a sacred space. Their name for it is the Haram Ramet El Sharif. Khalil, which is friend. The sanctuary of the friend, because Abraham was a friend of God. So in all these different periods, we have this place as a sacred space, and we know where it is, and now it sits out in the middle of nowhere, and hardly anybody comes to it or pays it any attention.
So this is where the apse of
This is the apse of the church. You can see it very distinctly in the archaeological plan, and this is it.
where the altar is.
And then these rooms would have come off of the main church for like monks to live in, and
That's 3rd century, 4th century.
this is early 4th century. All of Constantine's churches, they can't be built until he takes control of the east, which is 324. Then the places are designated, and around 326 in there, they're built, or the construction is started, and then they're finished at some point after that.
We've all fallen short of the glory of God, but you cover all of us with holy blood. We are nothing without you. We have everything in you,
Constantine only built 4 churches in this country.
Where?
Oh, Ed fell down.
He's gold!
Ouch.
Okay.
Okay, so 4 churches only. Is he okay? Did anybody see him fall?
Did you go for the top?
Went to help.
Yeah, Boar seemed to run to help him.